Matt, you lost £16,000 on machines like these over, what, 4 years? What would have made you stop sooner?
I think the question is more what would have stopped me becoming addicted, or what would have protected me from more harm. And I think the answer to that is capping the maximum stake per spin to £2 to bring them into line with all other easily accessible gambling machines in the UK. At the moment, as you said, you can bet £100 every 20 seconds.
What were you betting?
I was betting the maximum towards the end, certainly, yeah. And I think because of the addictive nature of the machines, players tend to stake up. They tend to stake up to the maximum eventually if they become addicted to them.
So with that in mind, what do you think about these rules that are being brought in?
Well, obviously, nothing's changed with the maximum stake. You can still bet £100 every 20 seconds. You just need to seek permission from the staff, or there just needs to be some sort of staff interaction. But we know from research that staff interventions are the most commonly tested means of ensuring player protection, but also the least effective.
Dirk, your members, these bookies and the people who work in those shops, they're not doing enough, and they don't have to now either. They don't have to limit what players like Matt would have been spending, because they haven't brought it down to £2 ago. It's still way up there at £100.
The government has announced restrictions today, and we don't think that's the way forward. I mean, we've seen a tax announcement in the budget, which means that hundreds of shops are at risk of closure and thousands of jobs could go. And we really think that the way forward is putting limits in place, which are now on machines already, and they have led to more customer interaction, and self-exclusions have gone up.
Do bookmakers even need shops these days? So much of it's done online, and surely that would be better for everybody, because it's much easier to regulate what people are doing online, isn't it, if they're betting with your members?
No, I represent the high street betting shops, and they are still part of the community. They've been part of the community for 50 years on the high street. And what's more important is that we have 8 million customers, and the vast majority of them bet safely and responsibly. And the average spend is only about £7.50, and they only spend about 10 or 15 minutes on the machine. So we've got to keep it in perspective. And also, don't forget, problem gambling is at record low levels, 0.5% in England. It was announced yesterday.
Announced where? Where do those figures come from?
This came from a Gambling Commission research study, which looked at the levels compared to, say, 5 years ago, when it was a lot higher.
The problem with prevalence surveys is they take the whole population. What we need to do is look at people that are playing these machines and see if they specifically are having problems themselves, because then that shows that there's a problem with that particular product. We polled over 500 betting shop customers in Newham. We found that 87% of people found them addictive, 62% had gambled till all their money is gone, and 76% had gambled for longer than they'd planned. So it suggests a problem with this particular product.
But that doesn't explain why problem gambling has gone down, unless people are using the machines nowadays.
Do you know what? I should put these messages to you we've had from our viewers on Facebook. Richard Lamb says, stop treating adults like kids. There's no such thing as a gambling problem. If some can't control themselves, why should that spoil it for everyone else? Neil McGilligan, Facebook, says, they are good fun. It's OK if you don't go mad. Funny, these are the same arguments that we're hearing on Britain Over the Limit about booze as well. Why use a sledgehammer to crack a nut? Why limit what most people can deal with for the sake of a few?
I think the problem is that these machines are very addictive, and I do take issue with the first comment there, because according to the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, gambling addiction is on a par with drug and alcohol addiction. It's a physiological addiction, and I think that if we look at the whole population, that's unfortunately not what we should be doing. We should be looking at...
But it's person-led, it's not product-centric. At the end of the day, they'll be addicted to 6 or 7 different gambling products.